So welcome to today's Let's Talk Wellness, all about nutrition 101 with Sam Nuzio, our EHE Wellbeing Coordinator. I will turn it over to her as we get started all about nutrition. Go ahead, Sam.
Thanks so much, Jen. Oh my gosh, guys. So I can't believe National Nutrition Month is concluding. So we had a bunch of awesome Let's Talk Wellness programs throughout the month. All of our Be Well partners did such an amazing job talking about different topics related to nutrition. So what I thought it'd be fun to do is kind of just go back and talk about some of the really great things that they said really briefly, just in case you missed any of them, just about those topics. And I thought, what better way to end the month and make some delicious, sweet energy bites that aren't too sweet, but are going to give you energy when you feel like you do need a snack. So they're going to pair a carb and protein, and I'll show you exactly how we're going to do that. But first, what I'd like to do is just kind of take us through a little bit about nutrition overall. Again, March was National Nutrition Month. On Virgin Pulse, did everybody participate in the March Madness, My Plate March Madness? You know, we had so much participation. We were so excited to see what everyone's favorite foods were. And within the brackets, what we did was actually use My Plate. So we used the different food groups. So there was a protein, a grain, a fruit, and a vegetable. We did leave out dairy because there were only 4 brackets. So it was really cool to kind of see them come through, and broccoli made it to the finals, which was super exciting. So I was really excited to see a vegetable make it all the way down through into our March Madness categories. So chicken breast was the winner, if you guys weren't aware already, which is really cool and really awesome because there's so many different things you can do with chicken breast. But what I love is that we were able to kind of show you guys different things that you could do with all these different foods and different tips and still making it fun. So My Plate, I mean, you guys have probably heard us talking about this all month. I started off National Nutrition Month with doing an air fryer demonstration with My Plate. And what we did was we took different food groups and even air fried some bananas, which was really fun. So we air fried the different food groups and made a plate, and it actually came really great. So does anybody remember the food pyramid? I always remember seeing it on the back of the cereal box when I was younger. You guys can put it in the chat, but does anybody remember what was at the base of the pyramid? Well, it was grains. It was back in the cereal box, right? Carbs, yep, grains. So there were a bunch of grains down at the bottom. And why is that? The reason for that is carbohydrates should make up actually most of our calories, believe it or not, because it gives our bodies energy. Nick and I were just talking about this yesterday, that our brain needs a certain amount of carbohydrates per day to function. So super important. But what we see now with My Plate is that it's not the largest section of the plate. It's actually only a quarter. Grains is only considered a quarter of the plate. But when we think about it, we're getting fruits and vegetables on the other half. So we know that some vegetables have carbohydrate and fruits are going to have carbohydrate. So it's nice and balanced when we think about that plate. Again, we're back to that theme of balance that we're coming into next month. So we also have protein down in the corner, and then of course dairy, like I said when we were talking about March Madness. So what's really nice is this is a visual that you can use instead of looking at a pyramid and saying, how can I actually use this? It's really something that you can really build your plate after. So Nick actually went through and told us so much about nutrition. If you guys haven't seen that presentation, it's got so much information in there. And the one thing that I really loved and stood out to me and I thought was so accessible and something you could start today for lunch is using your hand as a guide for portion sizes. So when you think about your hand in relation to the plate, what we want to look at is the size of your palm is usually about the size of the protein you should be consuming. We always also relate it to a deck of cards. It's usually about 3 to 4 ounces, and it may seem small, but we do generally tend to eat a lot of protein in the United States, but truly for everybody's protein needs are a bit different. But 3 to 4 ounces is the general recommendation per meal. So just remember the size of your palm. Now, as I'm a petite woman, I'm a short woman, small hands, so a larger man might have bigger hands than I do. So maybe his portion size might be a little bit bigger. So that's what's also nice about using the hands for portion size guides. Same thing when it comes to carbohydrates. So carbohydrates about the size of your fist. So we're not going to say fist, right? We're going to use this size here. And that's really nice because sometimes if I'm out to dinner, I have no idea how much they served me in a plate. If I got a pasta dish or something like that. So what I'll do is take my fist and put it right next to the pasta and take a look and say, okay, this is about how much I should try to eat around that time. And another thing to consider too, especially when going out to eat, or if you're sitting down to a quick meal, is the mindful eating that Jen kind of took us through as well. So mindfulness is so important and bringing awareness to meal times as well. So while the hand guides to portion sizes are awesome and really important and really such a great visual, I did actually forget about vegetables. Non-starchy vegetables is about 2 fists. And when you think about it, it's the size of the half the plate. Anyway, so the mindfulness piece is so important, bringing awareness to your meals. A lot of us are working from home, and what's happening is we're distracted while we're eating meals. Or I know personally for me, sometimes what happens is, you know, the day starts and then all of a sudden I'm in meetings all the way until 11 o'clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even get a chance to eat breakfast. Or maybe I'm just reaching for something to pick on so that way I make sure I eat something. But being able to carve out that 5-10 minutes, if you can, within your schedule, just to really take the time to eat and pay attention and eat a little bit more slowly, that is the key to try to, you know, get your body to recognize that you are actually eating. You know, we've all been there. We're watching a movie or watching TV and we go through the whole bag of popcorn. And what happens is we're distracted. And I've done it myself. I say, did I even eat that? Like couldn't even taste it. So just something to think about. If you are in back-to-back meetings, another thing that you can do, I always tell people, is if you just slow things down. That's so important. If you just pay attention to slowing it down, that'll really help. And then last up, Holly and Shannon from Exos gave us a great presentation about what to eat after exercise, or to help, you know, fuel performance, which I thought was really, really interesting. And what's great about that, you know, that's a whole nother topic. That could be a whole nother series, honestly. But I always think back to, or like to say on this topic, that we want to make sure that we're looking at how we're exercising and what we're doing to exercise. What time of day are you exercising? Do you typically eat before? It is recommended to try to eat something beforehand, just to kind of give your body the fuel to be able to do so. So, you know, those are great presentations that were given throughout the month. Definitely keep an eye out for them. But I always say nutrition is more of a conversation. You know, a lot of times we get questions about like, well, what should I eat? Or how should I, or what should I eat to lose weight? Or what should I eat to gain weight? And the truth is, it really depends on what you're eating and how you're using it and how active you are. There are so many questions behind it. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to send them my way, to send them Nick's way. Of course, any of the Be Well members, we'd be happy to help you answer them and navigate that. And you have so many resources and tools available to you through your wellness program, through PSCG as well. And definitely take advantage of them. It's super important. All right, so let's make some energy bites. I'm so excited. So I mentioned to Jen earlier, she had sent out a recipe for energy bites, and I was thinking, how fun would it be to make those? I thought that even before she sent the email. So when I saw those come through, I was like, let's try to make these. So what I've done already, I've done some preparation to make things a little bit easier, and we're gonna kind of build them together. So what I did was I actually toasted oatmeal. This is actually the Food Smart recipe that Jen had sent out. I'm sure she's gonna link it in the comments as well. So the Food Smart recipe is actually for a toasted oatmeal and quinoa energy bite. So I toasted the oatmeal. I mentioned before we started the presentation that I always have trouble toasting quinoa. So if any of you guys had just come onto the program, definitely let us know. Have you ever toasted quinoa? What works for you? What hasn't worked for you? What I'll say is the key is we want to always make sure we're rinsing quinoa. It does have saponins on it. And if you don't rinse it, you're going to get that really bitter taste of quinoa. So you really want to make sure you're kind of soaking and letting it rinse a little bit before you do anything with quinoa, even if you're cooking it traditionally and boiling it. So with toasting, it's recommended to keep it in water, or have some moisture to it, and you want it to be a golden brown color. So every time I try this, it doesn't necessarily work out for me. So if anybody it's worked out for you, let me know. A lot of times we keep tricolor quinoa in my house because I love the way it looks. But you guys can see it looks really golden and pretty. But the problem with this is I've noticed that with the red and black quinoa, a lot of times it doesn't toast all the way through or cook all the way through. I notice it's extremely crunchy. So to me, that means it's not fully cooked. So I'm not going to use it for this recipe. But I would suggest if you're going to use the Food Smart, try to use the white quinoa because that tends to, at least personally, I notice that it cooks up really well. Although I haven't got it to cook yet, because I've only had tricolor quinoa on hand. So there are a couple ingredients that I didn't necessarily have, but we're going to tweak it a little bit because that's real life, right? Sometimes we forget to buy something in the store, whatever the case may be. I'll kind of show you guys what we're going to do. So this one's really simple. We're actually just going to add peanut butter. So I'm going to use a little less peanut butter because I had measured this out anticipating we're going to use the quinoa. So the recipe calls for 1 cup of peanut butter, probably only going to use about half. You guys know how messy peanut butter can be when you measure it out in a measuring cup. So a really easy tip is if you guys have been watching any of the cooking demos I've done before, I use avocado oil for almost everything. So I just took the spray and just spritzed the measuring cup before I put the peanut butter in, and that should help to let it fall out a little bit easier rather than really, it's getting really stuck in there in every little corner and crevice. So there's that. I have measured out, I used about a tablespoon of coconut oil. We're probably, again, going to use a little bit less, only because we're using less grain as well. I have vanilla here that I measured out, about a teaspoon. And then I have some cinnamon for a little bit of flavor. And I just grabbed some flaxseed out of the fridge because I happened to have it. And I was like, well, let's throw it in there. That's what's so fun about these recipes. You can kind of throw in whatever you like. And there are so many different recipes out there. You can do mini chocolate chips. Some people like to put these in coconut flakes. Like if you roll them in coconut flakes, once they're made into the ball shape, there's so many different things that you can do. So this recipe today is actually calling for us to heat up the ingredients other than the quinoa. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take the peanut butter. Now, what's that gonna do for the peanut butter? It's really gonna help to, you guys can actually see, it did come off really easily. It came out really simply with the oil being there. The peanut butter is gonna just be it's gonna make it a little bit more, I don't wanna say liquidy, but that's what it's gonna do. I'm gonna put some of the coconut oil in. So coconut oil is really tricky. It's still a very highly saturated fat. So we wanna be careful with what we might be pairing it with. Nuts naturally have some saturated fat as well, which is why I also chose to go a little bit lighter on the coconut oil. Coconut oil also does have that coconutty taste. So I love coconut personally, so I don't mind it being in there. Honestly, I've made energy bites without coconut oil. There are some recipes that you don't even have to heat up, but the one that was recommended today was heated up. So let's try it out. I'm gonna put my vanilla in there. And then I'm gonna put a little bit of cinnamon, because why not? I love cinnamon too. So has anybody made energy bites at home? Definitely let me know. They're pretty popular. I'm also gonna toss in just a little salt. And just gonna let this sit on the heat for a little bit, and then I'm gonna stir it. So does anybody mention that they've made them before? Have not made it home, okay. Well, maybe this will be something new that you can try. They're fun. I mean, I've done them many times doing different food demos, and I've done them with, if you just do peanut butter, flaxseed, oatmeal, and really any toppings that you like. You can add some nuts, seeds. You can kind of crush them up in the food processor. There's a lot of recipes with dates as well, and those are really fun. If you like the taste of dates, dates are a really nice option. You just want to be careful because they are very sweet, so I'm going to be careful with the amount that I use. I forgot the maple syrup. They wouldn't taste good without that. Hold on. I put that back in the fridge when I was setting up. Oats, peanut butter, honey, chia, flax. Yes, exactly. And those are all such great ingredients. They're all so, what I like to say, nutrient dense. Oh, love that. Yeah, there's a lot of products out there too, for sure. And what I like about this again, we're controlling how much we're using of all the ingredients as well. But if you're on the go and you need to find something, you know, it's a Sunday or Saturday afternoon, you're running errands, finding something like that that's a little lower sugar, the ingredients list looks great. It's a really nice option because with the peanut butter, it's going to help to really make you feel full, which is really helpful. So I'm going to grab my whisk. So this is the peanut butter. It made such a huge difference heating it up. I might have to try it this way from now on. Show you guys in a second. Just trying to mix the coconut oil in. Smells amazing right now. I'm a big peanut butter fan though, so I'm pretty biased. Has anybody done these with almond butter or a date recipe using dates? No, there's so many out there. All right, so it looks like everything's pretty well incorporated. I didn't add a lot of salt because my peanut butter does have salt in it also. So that's another thing to remember. You know, even when you're reading any type of recipes, it depends on what you have and what you're using on hand. You know, sometimes the recipe might have, might say not to add salt, but you have unsalted peanut butter and nothing else that we're using really has salt in it. So just thinking about those things, I mean, you might not have known to add salt, but just if your peanut butter was extra salty or you noticed it did have a lot of salt, maybe you wouldn't add salt in here. So just something to think about. Again, it kind of goes in line with the balance theme for next month as well. Oh my gosh, this smells amazing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna add the oats, which are a nice golden brown. And I'm gonna kind of mix these in. The whisk was probably the worst idea. It's all getting stuck, but that's okay. I'm gonna use this spoon that I have. There we go. And guys, these are messy, but they're fun. If you guys have kids at home, it's a really fun activity just to get them hands-on in the kitchen. It's really fun. So it's starting to cool down a little bit, which is good. And I didn't have any chocolate chips to put in here, but that would have been a nice addition. The recipe that we have calls for cranberries or craisins. So what's really nice about that, it's going to offer some sweetness. When you use craisins, you just want to make sure, I always mention this to everyone, make sure you pull them apart. Because especially if you're throwing them in salads or even something like this, because they all get stuck together and you probably end up eating more than you would if you would have pulled them apart, because a little bit goes a long way. They all get stuck together. The other thing you can do is kind of mince them up. So chop them up small, and that will also have them go a longer way as well. I saw a question come through about toasting the oats. Honestly, I find that when we toast grains, and you know, if anybody else wants to jump in as well, a lot of times it has a nuttier flavor. I think also because this was heated, the grains will withstand it a little bit more if it was a little crunchier. So it'll also give it a little bit of a different texture there. But I've made it before where I don't toast the oats as well. And that's another option. It'll still give you a delicious final product. So I'm going to give this another minute. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have anything to add some good color to this, but that's okay. I'm going to add a little more maple syrup because I didn't really add a lot. And again, guys, this is what's really nice is this is the source of sugar here for at least the one I'm making today. So you control how much sugar goes in, which is really nice. I think the recipe, I have it written here, recipe calls for 3 tablespoons, which for the amount that this will make really isn't that much. But remember, I cut back because I didn't use the quinoa. So just keep that in mind as well. And I promised you guys I was going to put some flaxseed in here. So flaxseed is really fantastic. It's very high in fiber. It's also got those omega-3 fats that our body can't necessarily make on our own. So having these, if you're not a fish fan, or I have a lot of people I know that are allergic to seafood and they can't really eat the salmon or the good fatty fish, this is a nice option to add where you can. And these type of recipes where you can just kind of put in what you've got, it's really nice. So the serving size is about 2 tablespoons. This is going to make a decent amount. I'm just going to pour a little bit in. because we don't want to add too much fat. When we think about it, remember, we've got the coconut oil in there, we've got the peanut butter in there. So we just want to make sure we're not having too much. So it's already kind of forming balls. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take almost like a tablespoon size. Told you guys it was going to be messy. And I'm just going to kind of form it into a ball. Be gentle, they'll start to crack a little bit. This is still a little warmer than I'd like to work with. Of course, not burning me at all, but I usually like to cool it down to room temperature. And then you're gonna make a bunch of these. They're about this size. And you're gonna actually put them in the, I recommend putting them in the freezer for about 30 minutes. And that will kind of help to harden them up, especially when you think about what happens with fats. Especially coconut oil, it's going to harden when it gets colder. I put them in the fridge. Honestly, if you put them in the fridge for an hour or so, you're fine. That's a perfect amount of time. I've actually haven't done it in the freezer. I've always put it in the fridge. And what I like to do is, if you're just not, this is not your thing, I'm not getting my hands into peanut butter, you can actually press it into a sheet, like a smaller square sheet pan, and you can make these into bars instead of Energy Bite balls. So that way, you know, you're not getting your hands so dirty, you can use a spatula and you can kind of slice it up, which is really nice. So this is a little bit less than the recipe would make. I'm gonna put some here, I'm gonna start making them. Again, because we use less grain because of the quinoa, but one of the most versatile and fun things you can do. And of course, when we add more toppings, as I say toppings, I mean like the craisins, or even if you had some slivered almonds, those are a nice addition, or chopped almonds might be better. Consistency, that's gonna kind of make more servings. I would say 2 of these for a serving is probably where you want to stay. And again, these will go a long way with fullness, with the fiber. You know, you're getting fiber from the oatmeal, you're getting fiber from the flaxseed, there's fiber in peanut butter, and you know, there's a lot of fiber going on here. There's a lot of good fat going on here, which is also going to help with fullness, and the whole grains are really, really important as well. All right, guys, so I don't really have a finished product to show you. I wish I had something with color because these look so boring, but they're still really fun. So what I'm going to do is finish these up, and then I'm just going to stick them in the fridge for about an hour. Jen, did I miss any comments while we were chatting? I'm just going to wash my hands because I'm full of peanut butter.
No, you didn't miss any questions.
Okay.
Those look absolutely delicious.
They're so good. They're one of my favorite little snacks to have on hand. And again, I've never done it this way, but I felt adventurous when Jen sent the recipe. I was like, let's try it. You can just kind of throw everything in together and mix it together. Oh, thank you so much, Cindy. That's so sweet. Does anybody have any other questions or anything? Any general nutrition questions that I might be able to answer? You know, remember, like I said, I always say nutrition's more of a conversation. Whenever somebody asks me something, I'm like, well, how do you use it? Or how often are you having it? So just a reminder that, you know, things aren't always one size fits all, and you can always make things work for you and what you need. Oh, of course, of course. Thank you so much for coming. Anybody have any other questions? We'll hang out for a little bit, me and the BUL team. Jen or Nick, have you guys?
Sounds good. Thanks, Sam. I do just want to call out all the different resources that PSEG has regarding eating better as we're ending National Nutrition Month. So with Inversion Pulse, you do have a chance to add healthy habit cards, daily cards, create different challenges with coworkers, using the nutrition guide, connecting MyFitnessPal, and then also to just know your EEG annual exam. You can always contact Sam to book your appointment, and you have an annual health mentor available to you. Also, too, I want to highlight that Livongo weight management is available for New Jersey employees only. If you do have a BMI 25 or higher, you're eligible to participate in the Livongo weight management program at no cost to you. And last but not least, Food Smart by Sapongo is located within your Virgin Pulse account, where you can find some great recipes great area to start with, whether finding what's in your cabinets and making something healthy for that day. Food Smart is just making it healthy and easy for you to create some great recipes. So those are some great resources for you guys. Once again, next week, we will be back here for Let's Talk Wellness, all about balance. In the meantime, it's going to be talking about imbalance of a workout. So that's with our Exos team. So feel free to join us same time, same place, every Tuesday, 12:30 to 1. So thank you, Sam, for those energy bites. I cannot wait to make them because I do have quinoa and oatmeal and peanut butter and everything in my cabinet. So I actually will be making those.
Awesome.
If you guys have any other questions, feel free. We will hang on. Nick, Sam, and myself will hang on if you guys do have any questions. Thanks, guys.